Hey, what's up everyone? Tim here from Everyday Tactical Vids. You know, every once in a while a product comes along and you're like, I don't even know what to make of that thing, but I want to check it out so I can learn about it and figure out what do I actually think about it. So that's the case with this thing right here. This is the Gerber Doubledown. Basically, it is a large Balisong chopper machete kind of tool. As you can see, the blade is going to fold into the handle. Really unique. I mean, way outside the box for, you know, most outdoor knives that you've probably seen out there. So let me give you the details on this thing, then we're going to put it through the paces and offer you some thoughts. All right, 15.1 inches from end to end, 6.75 inches for your blade. You can get it with a couple different options. This is the stonewash finish. So you can get it with the stonewash finish with the green handle, as you can see here. You can get it with the stonewash finish with the black handle, and then you can get it with a black coated blade with a black handle as well. It has an FRN handle, 8.375 inches for that, and it has the quad lock system, which I'll show you in a moment. Here's a look at your sheath. Actually a really nice ballistic nylon sheath system. It's got a little rubber pull tab there, and then it's got a really nice long piece of webbing on the back, so you can attach this to gear. You can, carry it on your belt, however you want to set it up. Let's talk about the locking mechanism here. As is true with most Balisong type knives or tools, you're going to have this bar that's going to connect the two halves of the handle. So you're going to want to squeeze that and then basically push up on this little lever here. Make sure you're careful with the blade. It takes a little bit of you got to put some English into it to squeeze it and then to release this. And then once that happens, you think, okay, now I'm just going to close it. But it's still not unlocking. So you've got basically right there and there, and then there and there. And so you want to squeeze those two mechanisms, and that basically releases it so you can close it up. Now, if you stop squeezing them in the middle, it's not going to let you close it. So you got to squeeze it all the way. All right, so you have the handle closed, and I take the little bar and slide it over, and instead of going over the edge, there's basically a little notch that it's going to fall into. So just line that up and push it down in. And so that's what it'll look like when it's closed up. Now, to open it, you're basically going to hold it like this, squeeze a little bit, and pop your thumb. Let's see if I can do that. There we go. Like so. And now it's still locked. So to open it again, you're going to squeeze these two little buttons all the way until it's fully open. Now it's deployed. Lock the bar back over in place, and again, squeeze the handle to do so. And then you got to hear it click in to make sure it's nice and solid. There's that click. And now it's ready to go. All right, there's what it looks like when it's actually in the sheath. Again, probably one of the nicest ballistic nylon sheaths I've ever seen. Definitely a win for this product. Really nicely made. It's thick. You got 2 layers of the ballistic nylon there. Nice hook and loop or Velcro there. That rubber pull tab. So yeah, very, very impressed with the sheath. So I've got my thoughts on this thing already. But before I make a judgment, I want to be fair, right? I want to put this thing through the paces. So let's chop with it. We'll do some batoning, we'll do some carving, and then we'll come back and talk about it. Let's see if my preconceived notions about this type of tool line up with how it actually works. Do a little chopping here on a dead stump that's out behind my house. Here's a little bit of feathering with the double down. I was quite sure the double down would do fine with some batoning, and you can see it definitely did just fine. Just want to show you a little bit of the wear there. That stone wash finish is seems like it's rubbing off pretty quickly. I mean, knives are made to use, so get out there and use them, right? Alright guys, we're back. You've seen it in use. I've also used it off camera as well. Let me offer you some thoughts on the double down. First off, you can see that kind of finish is wearing off. No big deal. I mean, if you're going to use this thing, that's going to happen. But yeah, it is what it is. I do want to mention, you got 420 high carbon, and it is made in the USA, in case you didn't see that, made in the USA. So that's definitely a win, and you're going to pay more for that, for this thing, compared to, you know, something that's made in China, for example. So 420 high carbon versus 8CR13 or something like that, and then made in the USA versus made in China. So this thing's running you around 120, 130 bucks. You can pick it up over at Blade HQ. They've got it available on Amazon when it's in stock. It's been pretty popular, so it's come in and then gone out of stock. So here are my reflections. First off, you can see up here, when you first look at it, you might think it's a sawback. It's actually some jimping up there, or jimping like texture, I would say. I guess if you were using it like this, you could, you know, choke up and use it like that. Most people think jimping back here, but there are ways that you could actually use this as jimping. Like I said, if you lock this in on your arm and then maybe you're doing some field dressing, or again, for me, I always talk about dressing fish. I think it's more to look cool than anything else. The handle is quite comfortable. I do like this, that I can lock my hand in when I'm chopping, and when I do that, my first finger falls here and the rest fall in this second section, and so chopping was quite comfortable. I would like to have a glove on for any type of chopping I'm doing with any knife, chopper, tool like that, because after a while it just makes your hand tired and beats your hand up. So I can tell you, without using any kind of glove, it still worked great. So heads up on that. I do like the locking mechanism. I like the fact that you got to press, basically, you know, with all four of these little components have to go down. The bar has to be loosened in order for you to lock it down. I think that locking mechanism right there has a future for Gerber. It adds a whole nother weight, whole nother level of, you know, safety and protection while you're chopping, especially with something like this. You don't want to be swinging this and have your handle start, you know, loosening up on you, whatever. And again, even if you pop this out, you can open it slightly, but you still have to depress those to really close it up. So that's cool. I would say it came pretty sharp. You can see there is a little bit of this kind of, you know, curvature, recurve to the blade. A little bit weird right here, that comes all the way down, and then it is actually sharpened down to that little point, but I would have rather had it just kind of end, so I could take my sharpening stone, or my sharpening rod's my preferred method, take it all the way to the end there. All right, so it did the tasks. It chopped quite well, especially for its relatively compact size, I would say. Let me talk about this knife compared to other things you might have out there in the woods. So let's compare this to a Mora. So this is a knife. You're going to be using this for carving, for feather sticks, general just work around camp, bushcraft types things. You could do a lot of those types of tasks with this. It's just going to be more tedious with this, right? So obviously you could baton very small pieces of wood with this. This one can baton more effectively. You can chop, you can slash, all those things more effectively with the double down. So if you're like, I just want something for small tasks, and you're picking between these two, pick the Mora. This thing's not going to offer that same level of functionality for those smaller tasks as the Mora is. So there's a difference. This is going to give you more chopping power, slashing power than your basic, you know, Mora camping knife. All right, next up, let's compare the double down to an axe. So this is the Cold Steel Trail Boss, very budget-friendly axe. You can see I've even still got the barcode on there. This thing is going to fell larger trees. This thing is not. I mean, I guess you could chop down a tree with this if you want to spend a lot of time doing it, whereas this thing is going to be much more effective at it. So if you need to do a lot of chopping, splitting wood, larger tasks that, you know, involve some serious heft and power as you're doing the chopping, the double down is not going to do as well as an axe. So advantage for the larger things for this. However, this is going to be harder to do, you know, a lot of those smaller tasks just because this is more compact. This is going to offer you more functionality for the smaller tasks. So in this one, this comparison, you know, large chopping tasks, this is going to win. Some slashing chopping tasks, but also some smaller work, I would say take this guy. All right, next comparison, the double down compared to the Hungless 2. Now, whether it's the Hungless 1 or the Hungless 2, very similar. This one's a little bit smaller than the Hungless 2, but, you know, looking at the size of your cutting edge, a little bit more cutting power or cutting length with the Hungless 2, but very similar in size. So, if you guys know me, the SE Hungless, all-time favorite knife chopping tool of anyone that I've ever used. So this is going to be hard to beat. I like the Hungless 1 more than the Hungless 2, but that's my preference. If you're going to spend, you know, 130 bucks, I would spend the money on a Hungless 2 over the double down in general, because it's an awesome knife. I like 1095. They've got an awesome warranty. It's the super ergonomic handle. I mean, just a lot of wins for this knife. What does the Hungless or the Hungless 2 not win compared to the double down? Well, that's how big this is when it's in the sheath, and this is how big this is. So just looking, I mean, I got to pull this way back to the edge of the camera, but I mean, it's almost double the size, the Hungless 2 compared to the double down, and the full-size Hungless is even bigger, right? So as far as being compact, this thing definitely is going to win the day. Great sheath for what you get from SE, but as far as being compact and you need a chopping tool, if it needs to be compact, this thing is definitely going to win on that level. All right, last up for comparison, let's bring in the .230 machete from Tops. So this is the larger one. There's also like a .8 or a .7. This is a full-fledged machete. I mean, you just look at it, you're like, yeah, that's a machete. Definitely got some flex, like machetes are supposed to have. Very comfortable handle. You got your lanyard here. You do have kind of a different tip than you probably see on a lot of machetes, or at least most machetes I've seen. This is a machete, slashing, chopping, cutting. Absolutely, this thing is going to do a great job. All right, so how does the double down compare to the Tops machete? So when it comes to slashing, cutting through undergrowth, you know, cutting down branches and stuff like that, in general, I'm going to pick this one. Length of blade, just more power because you get a little bit, you know, more heft as you're swinging it. This thing can do some of those chopping and cutting tasks, just not as effectively. I mean, just look at the blade comparison. It's not even close, as you can see. However, batoning with this and doing finer tasks, I think this guy is going to function quite well. A lot of people can get comfortable with a machete, but just because of its length, it gets a little bit less, it's a little more unwieldy when you're trying to do some finer tasks because you've got this kind of weight out here on the far end. Whereas with the double down, it should work quite well to do that. So all that said, you're going to see there's functionality with a double down, and then it's going to lose to some things like, you know, it's going to lose to an axe and its overall chopping power. It's going to lose to a Mora and its ability to do fine detail work. But you can see this guy could be a generalist. I think the win of this thing overall is going to be really two main aspects. Let me close this guy up. So here's my takeaway when it comes to the double down and where I think it wins. First of all, you've got a novelty factor. This thing, when I first saw it, it reminded me kind of like the SE Cleaver, which the SE Cleaver compared to a Hungless and some of the other tools they have, I'm like, I wouldn't choose the Cleaver over a Hungless, but it's got that cool, unique factor. This thing definitely has that, right? So if you're like, I just want something that's totally outside the box, then maybe this is the one to go with, you know, for that type of purchase. So you've got the unique factor. The next thing is just how compact it is, right? So put this in the sheath, and basically for the this Tops machete, your sheath is gonna come up to about here. So just, let's do a quick comparison. I mean, it's not even close. It's over 2 times as big. The machete is over 2 times as big as this. So I do think this offers you, you know, really just the compact nature of things. That's going to be a win. So if you want something unique and you want something compact and something that is a generalist, it's not going to be off the charts like a carving knife. It's not going to be off the charts like an axe. It's a generalist type of tool. I think there's kind of a cool, unique nature to this thing, right? If you go camping and you want something you could generally use around camp and stuff, and then you're like, oh, let me take out my my cutting tool, and you take this thing out, and people are like, what do you got? And you're like, this? They're gonna be like, what? I mean, they've made large Balisong knives before, They make them, I guess, semi-legitimately, as in like, you know, like people would actually use them. I find them to be more like a collector's piece or something like that. But again, hey, I'm no Balisong expert, so. But this thing, like, you know, it's actually functional and it's super unique. And I was impressed when I finally got my hands on this and was trying it out. I'm like, that thing actually feels comfortable and you can use it. So if you want something that's compact and uber unique, then maybe the Double Down is an option for you. I do like the fact it's made in the USA. I do really like the sheath. I do think 420 high carbon steel is a good option rather than choosing some cheap steel. If this was an 8CR or 7CR, I'd be like, just go with something else. But I do think there's a wow factor and definitely a functionality factor with this as well. So there's my take on it. It's the Gerber Doubledown. Let's hear your thoughts. What do you like? What do you not like? What would you keep? What would you change? Let's get that discussion started down in the comment section. All right, guys, thanks as always for checking out the videos here on YouTube. Please subscribe to Everyday Tactical Vids if you haven't done so already. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, check us out on Instagram, Tumblr, and Vero as well. More videos coming soon. Take care.